All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Fry. I am a customer success manager here with Desk.com, and I am joined by my co-pilot today, Brian Hickey. Hi, Brian.
Hello, everyone.
Excellent. So if Brian can hear me, that means the rest of you can hear me. Can you see my screen, Brian? Excellent. Okay. So first and foremost, thank you for attending today's reporting webinar for Desk.com. I will be recording today's session. So if you have any questions about that or questions on what we walk through today, do know that today or tomorrow you'll receive a follow-up email with a recording of today's session so that you have that handy as you walk through this in your own instance. Also, if you have questions, Brian's here to help answer some of those questions on the back end. He'll be dropping some links into the GoToWebinar widget for us today throughout our session. But we will leave time towards the end for us to open things up for Q&A. So I do recommend as we walk through things, if you have questions, go ahead and post them. Provide as much context as you can. That way we know which topic your question is related to. And so to kick things off, let's start first with our agenda. I will briefly cover this. We're going to begin a discussion around today's service environment and really what that means for the customer experience. And then we're going to talk about the standard industry metrics for service organizations. The meat of our presentation today will be the 3 ways to extract insights from Desk.com. So I will demonstrate to you business insights. I will also pull an export for you. And then lastly, we're going to talk through an API use case and provide you with the development resources on our website if an API route is a route that you want to take. If you've ever attended one of our webinars before, you know that we always include a resources slide and we'll have Q&A towards the end. So let's go ahead and get started by putting the customer first. I hope it goes without saying, but all eyes are turned toward the customer experience. And today it's one of the defining lines between companies who are thriving or not. A majority of executives agree that service teams are well positioned to transform the customer experience. And rather than being a costly reactionary function, these service teams are becoming a means of competitive differentiation and a way to proactively enhance your customers' experiences. Customers themselves are saying their brand loyalty is heavily influenced by the quality of service they receive. So taking a step back, for example, I live in Chicago. If you've never attended a webinar, I'm in Chicago, Brian's in San Francisco. And when I want pizza here in Chicago, I have some really great options. I have thin crust, I have Chicago deep dish, I even have New York style. I won't tell you what's my favorite because it gets really heated. But I've narrowed down a few favorites here in Chicago based on the quality of the pizza. But I've also had some awesome and not so awesome customer experiences. Everyone on the phone here should be a consumer. So you've probably had some good and not so good food experiences. And I don't have to belabor the point, but the better the customer experience, the better or more inclined I am to continue being a patron at that business. I literally won't order pizza from a place because it comes cold every single time. So how are customer service teams worldwide adapting to fit that definition that I, Jessica, define, that Brian defines, that you, Mary, or you, Lainey, define? How are those teams adapting to fit that ever-changing definition of excellence? And in general, service is transitioning away from its position as a necessary cost center. And I have 2 points to share on that. Highlighted here on the screen is some of the research. First, service's role has been elevated. It's one that is an additional growth engine. We're generating new sales opportunities. We're improving brand experiences. And from a Salesforce research standpoint, 71% of service professionals have implemented more customer-oriented KPIs to measure performance. And 61% of service teams say their strategic vision over the last year or year and a half has become more focused on understanding a customer's full history with their company. The second point that I want to share is that some service teams, they're focusing on newer KPIs. Newer research points to an anticipated growth, actually, of case deflection, a growth of about 96%. And when I say case deflection, what I really mean is your self-service outlets, like your support center that's helping customers find quick answers on their own terms all the while freeing agents to tackle more complex issues. I don't know about you, but to me, that sounds like a win-win. I'm both reducing cost and improving the customer experience. So let's turn our attention to quantifying that experience. Let's lay the groundwork. Let's talk about some industry metrics without losing sight, though, of that customer experience or agent productivity. And so here I've outlined on the slide some of the industry's top reportable metrics, things like first contact resolution, average handle time, and customer satisfaction. First contact resolution is a big one for me. If I'm reaching out to a company, I should caveat I'm a very impatient person, but if I'm reaching out to a company, especially if I go through the effort to call the support line, it's because I expect this to be a one and done, fix my issue kind of call. And I recently had a very frustrating experience with a major credit card company. Over the course of 4 weeks, I chatted 3 service reps and eventually had to call for a 4th attempt to resolve my request, but that 4th agent did something that the others didn't. He made a promise to me up front. He said he wanted to get our interaction as close to a first call resolution as possible. He had that proactive attitude. He immediately de-escalated my frustration. And to be fair, he delivered. My example also speaks to average handle time. I reached out multiple times over the course of 4 weeks, spanning 2 calendar months. That was way too long for me to wait for a resolution when other companies with similar requirements took 10 minutes. But in service, empathizing here, we know that average handle time can be impacted by case volume. Whether you're B2B or a B2C organization, bandwidth and productivity always pose a challenge. So in today's demonstration of Business Insights, that native reporting tool in Desk, I'm going to point out ways to track some case volume trends. And as we get ready to dive in, I want to make sure that I provide a brief summary of the 3 methods that we're going to talk about. We'll start with Business Insights, and I'm going to demonstrate for you the ways to navigate around this out-of-the-box solution, and possibly then some ways for you then to start thinking about the types of reports that are going to be most important to you. Then I'll turn our attention to Desk's classic agent. I'm going to walk through how to create an exported CSV, so that case export. And then lastly, we'll talk about how your development resources could reference the API, and I'm going to share a customer example there. So to kick things off with Business Insights, let's quickly review who has access. These are those standard Desk roles with access to Business Insights. If you're taking notes, maybe the reverse is easier. There are actually 3 role or 3 levels without access. Those are the agent, those are your flex agents, and your knowledge base administrator. Those are the 3 roles without access to Business Insights. So now that we've kind of squared away who has access, let's go ahead, let's dive in, let's move over to Desk and my demo site, and let's check it out. I want to start here because if you are an admin, you're probably very familiar with the screen. You can choose to navigate first the admin panel, your agent universal inbox, or to Business Insights. Or if you're within, this is my demo site, all dummy cases. If you're within the actual agent console, this is your universal inbox, just click the hamburger menu and navigate on over to Business Insights. And as that's loading, Brian, are there any initial questions for what we'll be covering today or anything that I can navigate to here off the bat?
Nothing at the moment. We did have one report that you weren't quite as loud at some point in there, so I guess we'll just make sure that we are staying close to our microphone.
Oh, yes. No, please definitely give us audio feedback. I am about as close to the microphone as I can get, and I promise you I am practically screaming. But do let us know if you have any audio or video challenges, because that's super important for today's webinar. Okay, so now that we're in Business Insights, this is the out-of-the-box Desk reporting. You're going to be able to review metrics related to things like counts. Those are things like cases created or resolved. Metrics related to periods of time, like time to first response and time to resolution. And then also metrics related to calculations, like average handle time, first call resolution, and % of cases reopened. So counts, periods of time, and calculations. The first screen here, this is the dashboard report, which is going to show me the last 24 hours of data for the out-of-the-box metrics. And a quick caveat, some of you on the phone may have different edition levels. The dashboard is available to our Pro and Business Plus customers. Pro would have 9 widgets, and then Business Plus can have up to 16. And these widgets are going to relate to things like queue management, trends, and performance. Now, where it says no data to display, that's because this is my demo site. I did my best to get my colleagues to email in and try to give me some cases here. But I wanted to make sure that you understood your widgets would populate data if there was data to display. So let's go ahead and check out the menu here from the dashboard. Where it says Dashboard Report, this is actually your menu where you can determine the other reports available to you that are part of your subscription level. So for example, I really like the Overview Report, and I also really like the Segmentation Report. So I'm going to show you both of those today, but I at least wanted you to know from the dashboard, where can you then navigate to the other reports? Now, while this is loading, the Overview Report is the most relevant to identifying trends with my support team because it's going to show data over time. And because I mentioned time, I'm going to point out 2 things. One, all times and dates in Business Insights are based on the time zone selected in Desk's admin setting. So times and dates are based on your admin time zone that's selected in the admin configuration. Secondly, Desk.com reports like this one are only going to show a summary of cases that have come into or out of Desk. In other words, if the case isn't in Desk, it's not going to populate in Business Insights. I do get that question sometimes, so I wanted to caveat there. So let's focus on the Overview Report. And you can see this automatically pulls data for the last 7 days. And you can see that, wow, my team has had some peaks, it's had some valleys, but I definitely have some data here. Within my report, I can choose to add filters. So I'm going to click Add Filter. And with filters, I can essentially include or exclude components, things like the channels, the agents or groups, maybe the custom fields or labels. And basically, what a filter is going to allow me to do here in Business Insight is drill down from all cases to specific cases. So if you've joined a webinar before, we have a bike shop, we have Friday fun rides as events. I really care about the events my customers inquire about, and I have events as a custom field. So I could filter here for my events for my Friday fun rides. Now, I don't think I actually have a ton of data on that, so I'm going to back up and I'm going to say, let's do this for my custom field. That is my customer type, and I think I have plenty of leisurely cases in here. I'm going to click Apply. And then here with the screen reloaded, this is now just going to show me cases related to my custom field, customer type leisure cyclist. If you have a label, same thing. If you want to filter this by groups or channels too, you can do that. I could turn off phone simply by toggling, things like that. Getting ahead of myself, but let's get a general lay of the land here on this page. The reporting screen is laid out with a graph or chart on top and then a table of data beneath. To modify the graph's appearance, you can click on these channel or chart buttons, channel buttons, which I just showed you. And then we also have the weekly or time-related buttons here. Up at the top, you can also, while I'm here, you can also download the data. Just click the download arrow. This is going to export the data from below the graph. So essentially, the table of data below, that is what will export. And then to the left of that is a bookmark button. This icon will allow you to save your reports to your favorites list. I'm going to show you where that is right now. I'm clicking in the report menu, and down at the bottom we have something called favorites. So let me go ahead, let me bookmark this. We'll call this webinar June 13th. Click save. And once this loads, I will show you where that is in the screen. Now, earlier I showed you too that you can toggle these channels. I do want to caveat before we walk into the table of information. The channel type is going to control the metrics available for cases. In essence, there are variations, and that should make sense. You know, your email cases have the types of metrics available that maybe phone or chat differ. So just be cognizant of that as you're thinking about, what channels to include here. Okay, so I did the favorites. Let's show you where that is. Now under my favorites, you can see that my report that I just created is saved. It's going to save everything. It's going to save the date. It's going to save the filter. That way you can re-reference this report at a future time. And if you want to change any of the criteria, you've kind of already created that template for you to work off of in the future. So let's check out the table of data now here below. These are the out-of-the-box metrics available with Desk. They are all defined in our metrics glossary. And I do want to point out that over here on the right-hand side, there is an arrow. This adds to the column, so you can scroll to see those additional columns. Now, if there's a particular column that you want represented on the graph, right now it's created cases, and that's what's highlighted in blue. You can change that y-axis by selecting a different column. So now the chart is showing me resolved cases in that time period. And two, if I wanted to click on a particular case, maybe I want to know what the one case was that was handled on Friday. If I click here, I'm going to get some additional details. If you do have questions on that, let us know. But one of the questions that I do want to address now, because I did point out created cases and resolved cases, I want to talk a little bit about these two columns and time period subsets. This report is showing me 18 cases created between June 5th and June 13th. That's 18 cases created. Also, between June 5th and June 13th, or I have 14 resolved cases. This is not a subset though. So this isn't 14 of the 18 cases when you select this in Business Insights. You have to think of this as created cases or resolved cases in the time period, not cases created and then resolved. So that's a quick lay of the land here with the overview report. As I mentioned, this is a very valuable report. It gives you some of the pertinent information you need for your case volume over time. The second report that I want to show you here today is the segmentation report. And a segmentation is basically a correlation of metrics. So I'm going to show you those correlations that you can choose from. Essentially, if you want to compare maybe agent to channel, or maybe agent to custom field, maybe macros to agents, things like that, you're going to choose two different dimensions to which we're going to correlate. So this should look similar. We have the graph at the top, the table of data here at the bottom, your channels you can toggle on and off. One difference here, though, that wasn't available on the overview report is how your graph looks. So if you want your graph to be the line graph and everything, or if you want to stack the channels, this is my favorite, you can change how that graph looks simply by clicking these graph buttons. All the other buttons are the same, so whether you want to look at the data by hour, day, week, etc., you have those options. Also, too, you can add filters here. So let's take a look. Let's go ahead. Let's build out some of the segments that you want to compare here in a dimensions report. So you'll see I just clicked on the active segments area, and the default is channel over time. If I just change channel to agents and I select myself, that's also me, by the way, and Brian, and click update, I'm now going to see a segmentation report. I don't think I changed the other dimension, so it'll be agents over time. That's going to give me an available segmentation across all of the data here that comes in. I think too, when I go back in here and after I choose agent, maybe one of the other things that I'll want to choose, let's see, I can quickly turn Brian on or off, or Jessica on and off. Oops, let's actually show data. So Brian's worked pretty hard on the 7th and the 11th. I joke, I made those cases for him. Okay, great. So here we have agent. You're a very hard worker, Brian. That's why I added you to my demo site, because you always hop in and help. So I have agents over time, but maybe that's not really what I'm looking for. Maybe I want to find out, which of my agents are working most with my leisure cyclists. Again, coming back to that customer type, custom field that we put in. Or maybe I'm interested in maybe contact reason. Also, who's handling the majority of sales cases. That could be important, especially as we're building pipeline and generating growth opportunities for the business. So I'm going to click update here. Let's let that refresh. And let's check out what that correlation looks like. And while we wait, Brian, if you haven't already, could you drop in that metrics glossary? We do have a really great metrics glossary on our support center. It's going to define the metrics available in each report and then how those metrics are calculated. So I'm going to repeat that. The metrics that are available in each report, that becomes really important. And then how the metrics are calculated. I use that regularly. I recommend bookmarking it, share it, use it within your organization. Excellent. So now I can see here, Jessica worked on 9 cases with leisure cyclists. I worked on 6 that were bike sales. And Brian was literally a third of that, probably because he is busy doing other very important things. So you can see how segmentation really allows you to dive into the data. And I welcome you to play around with that, especially too, if there's different ways that you want to look at the data using those charts. And then I mentioned earlier, if you do click into any of the linkable numbers, it's just going to populate another page for you that gives you that case level report. And those are also defined in that metrics glossary, that link that Brian sent you. So now I have access to all 9 of the case IDs and information about them, such as their status, who it was assigned to, the number of interactions. It looks like I'm pretty quick with one outbound interaction as my average here. But my time to first response varies greatly as far as the time there and the time to resolution. I did do that on purpose. I wanted some big numbers in there because that's more realistic. Not everyone can have, just a minute 43 as far as handle time or time to resolution, things like that. So that's a great way for you to see that case level reporting. And to get back to the segmentation report, just go ahead and click segment. So before I navigate away from business insights, I do want to show you exports before we handle the majority of questions. But Brian, was there anything that stuck out as far as a question that could help the greater group here?
I don't know if these are questions for now or if we're going to cover them shortly, but basically, with filters, looking at how to include 2 custom fields so that you can report on a case with type X and case subtype Y. And then a question about sharing reports or downloading. Can we share graphs and whatnot?
Okay, 2 great questions. Remind me I'll answer the graph one right now. The graphs don't export. What I typically do is I take a screenshot. The table of data beneath the graph, that will export when you click the download button. I'm also going to show you how to do a raw case export here shortly, so I answered that question. Now, the first question had to do with including multiple filters. And forgive me, I was just trying to keep things simple today, keep it moving along, but absolutely. If you want to know how many cases have come in, contact reason is our inquiry type, are related to bike sales as well as to bike services. If it's a custom field, you can just do 1 line item, hit apply, maybe 2. I want to know and or. It's really up to you. Let's say also including a label. I think I have maybe 1 or 2 like this. I have such a small segment of data, guys. So let's go ahead and click apply and see if anything pops up. But really what I was able to do there, custom fields, labels, agents, things like that, you can include or exclude. And then you can also pick an and or the or operator. Oh, good, I did. Okay, so you can see here I had 1 case, that was for the segments I have. So remember, I'm still searching on my segment report, which is just for specific custom fields. And then I'm searching against filters for just a specific contact reason and a specific label, which was cart checkout. So you can get granular here depending on your configuration. Things like custom fields, things like labels, that's really important. Now I do want to give a caveat here. I believe, you can select up to 6 on each of these parameters. And I do recommend, whether you're using these dynamic dates or custom dates, if you do save your report and you want a different time frame when you reference it again in the future, you will need to change the dates. The report you save is literally the report that you save. Okay. So let's head over to case exports. Hopefully I can answer some of these additional questions in the queue because, Business Insights is going to help you quickly see trends. It's going to help you review performance. Some customers do like to get more hands-on with their data, especially as you start to dive into more of these inclusions and exclusions. And so if you like to create your own tables or you like to create your own charts, case exports might be good for you. And it's actually one of my favorites. So I'm going to come back over here, pretend, back in the agents console. One of the things that you do have to do to export cases is actually toggle over to our Classic agent. This is still one of the very few features that is supported in Classic, but not yet available in NextGen. So I'm just going to toggle over to Classic. And to kick things off here, you can either export from a filter or from a search. And I'm going to talk about the filter, and I'm going to show you how to do it from the search. So first here in the filter, let's say these particular cases are the ones that I want to export. I want to export all of the cases related to my leisure cyclists. I can go ahead and just click Select All, Apply to All Cases, and Export. Now, I moved really fast there. Don't worry. I'll do it again soon. One other use case that I like to give for this, because I've already set this up, this may or may not be applicable to kind of what you're thinking for reporting in case exports. But I do want to give an example. I have one customer who, actually I have two customers, but they pull an export on specific case types. So this is my customer type, specific case type, etc. They need to pull it every Monday based on a condition of time since the last interaction. So their filter is built to only include cases that have had a last interaction in the past 170 hours. So 168 is 1 week, 170, they gave themselves some buffer time. And also a custom field value. So whatever that may be, true, false, a pick list kind of value, that sort of thing. And they created the filter to capture those cases. And now they can streamline their weekly reporting since they want to do some customization by just going into the filter, selecting all, applying to all, and clicking export. I'm going to export this just to see if that will move faster for us than the search here. Now, both methods are going to require you to identify that case criteria. So in this instance, it was customer type, maybe it's time dependent, etc. Figure out what cases and what components apply to those cases before you kind of begin this endeavor. Otherwise, there's a lot of going back and forth and adding additional filters of sort. Sorry to use the word twice, but it makes the most sense. Today, I'm going to show you how to execute a search and then export. So here in Classic Agent, if you've ever used it, it is a bit of a different search functionality than NextGen. I'm more comfortable with Classic and Search, but in general, I'm more comfortable with NextGen Agent. So here, one of the things that I learned very quickly using Search in Classic is this drop-down arrow here on the left. Please don't overlook this. This is going to be probably your best friend. This is going to open up your options. And, Brian, since you are still active on the line, are there any pieces or criteria that you would like me to search for?
Customer's name, Brian.
Okay, so let's just take a look at Brian. Do I have any from you in this site? This is going to be a good test. Probably.
I guess we'll find out. Either that or phone cases.
Here we go.
Okay, there we go.
I got some Brians. So here, if I literally just wanted to export cases with customers named Brian, maybe you got a voicemail from a Brian, he didn't leave any other contact information, and it's pretty urgent that you figure out potentially who this could be. Maybe you search for all Brians. You can either cherry pick, you can pick which cases to export simply by clicking the checkbox. That's a pretty intuitive UI there. Or just select all. There's that all feature. Apply to all cases and click export. I'm doing a couple of exports today because sometimes I am on my home Wi-Fi. Sometimes it can take a little bit longer. And I want to be able to show you guys a document here today. So that one's taking too long, so I'm going to close out. Let's head back over here and let's go kind of back on script with what I know I have available here in my support center. All right. So maybe I want to take a look at cases created between, you can do a variety of options here, but I'm going to do between June 1st and June 12th. And let's see, what else do I want to do? I can also search by my custom fields. My custom fields are called bike type, customer type, and contact reason. Your names and your custom fields are going to be different, just FYI. And the values in there, you know, my events, labels, etc., those are going to be different in your instance than mine, but just for some examples. So maybe I want to do those cases, and maybe I want to see the inquiry type. So where was my contact reason? And you can see here in the advanced search, my options populated. Because this is a custom field with the pick list values, those list values already built in, they're built into my search functionality as well. So if I want to say, you know, it's about bike sales, it's about bike services, events, and maybe promotions, let's go ahead and click search. And by executing that search, as you know, I'm going to surface the appropriate cases based on those search results. Okay, so I have 17 results, and I can choose again to cherry pick these, or I can just choose select all. Let me try making my screen a little bit bigger. That's odd. I don't typically work in Classic, so let me just try that again very quickly. And you know, if that happens to you, I recommend doing exactly what I'm doing here. Just give it a go. Oops, I want promotions. There's a reason. I know I have a case there. Okay, search. Okay, great. Oh, I got 18 on this one. You know, it is just to save time here today. I apologize if you're experiencing this issue. My next step would be to clear my cache, log out and log back in, but I don't want you all to have to wait. So I'm just going to hand pick the few that I did. Go ahead and click export. Now that export call to action, that is here on the lower right-hand side of your screen. I know sometimes after doing a session with me or with any of the other, you know, members of our desk team, this might just your memory might not serve you. So here on the right-hand side is export, and then you can go ahead and tell it to export. While we're waiting for that, I actually want to navigate back over to my screen, because what I've done as I tried to clean this up, I like to understand kind of the possibilities available to me. And so here I have a simplified view. It's actually a list of the data points that are extracted during that export. So in analyst speak, these are the actual columns available from the CSV that are being created right now. So you get quite a bit of the raw case data, things like the company and customer's first and last name, their contact and location information, if they have the social IDs or URLs, things of that nature. And also, too, those case components that are going to be very important to you, like the priority, channel status, if macros were applied, the time at which it was first resolved, the handle time, if there were any labels applied, any CSAT scores given, things of that nature. And then, of course, any company custom fields, any customer custom fields, and any case custom fields. So I did want to point that out for you. Let's head back, if I can remember which screen I was on, and we'll click export. And I will unzoom for you here and open that file. And I am looking for the file. I apologize. Okay.
I can, while you're looking for that file, I can drop this case export document into the chat.
Excellent. Yes. Thank you for that. So here I actually pulled this up from a different one. I can't find the file, and I wanted to save time. You can see the information that I summarized for you on the slide. Those are the columns here, and you have the data points available to you in an Excel that you would be able to then generate pivot tables from, create charts, etc. Now I'm on a Mac, so my Excel might look different from yours. I actually don't know how to use Excel on a PC or Windows operating system, to be more accurate. But for those of you on a Mac, if you've never done it before, you just click the data tab and then pivot table. You'll then define the area from which the data is being pulled if you haven't set defaults. And then you can drag and drop your your columns, your rows, your values, whether you want sums, counts, averages, etc. Unfortunately, I'm not here today to give you a pivot table lesson. I learned it from a colleague. We grabbed coffee one day, like 10 years ago, and I learned how to do them. They've become critical to my career. So if you don't yet know how to make pivot tables, I always recommend it. It's just a great skill set to have, and it'll really help you here with these exports, just navigating back over to the raw data. Now, something that Brian dropped in for you, and before we navigate away from exports, we do want to share some documents that provide use cases for creating those desk reports that I showed in Business Insights via the export route. So some of those reports are actually available through this raw data if you want to get hands-on and manipulate it yourself. And then also there's a second document that Brian's dropping in. If you're a Salesforce customer with a Sales Cloud license, there's the document for creating reports in Salesforce based on desk metrics if you're using Desk Connect. So I do hope that you find these helpful. You're the first set of customers to receive those documents. So feedback is always welcome. And also just, understanding that I created them. And I hope that the many sets of eyes that looked at them are able to, give the best representation of what will be helpful for you. Okay, so we've covered a lot. We do still have some time left. I want to talk about the API, and then I also want to show you resources and do Q&A. So let's go ahead and navigate back over here to the presentation. And as a reminder, you will get a recording and a copy of this presentation. With the API, let me first start with, we have a very well documented API, and the API has endpoints for cases so that you can write scripts to harvest information and then create your own custom reports and dashboards. If you haven't already checked it out, maybe you don't have an immediate need for it. Our API documentation is available on our support center, and the direct URL for that, Brian, if you could type that in for everyone, it is at dev.desk.com. I'm showing it here on my screen as well, but it's dev.desk.com. Now, if you're like me, you might not be a developer. You might not know what API stands for. You just maybe have a gist of what it does. In that case, I recommend talking with your team about the level of reporting that you need, the availability of a developer to write the scripts, and then also to think about where you want that exported data to live. From a step standpoint, there's 4. Your developer would run an API request to Desk.com from your own server. And that application that your developer develops could be written in .NET or maybe Ruby on Rails. Those are just 2 examples. That data request is sent. The data is sent back from Desk in the API response. And then within your server, the data is interpreted and parsed. That's where you determine the arithmetic or algorithm to basically sort and make use of the data. From there, the data can then be stored in your local database or for wherever you choose, but that is your decision. Now, I do want to share an example, actually. Birkenstock USA, they're a Desk.com customer. They're actually one of Brian's customers. They are using the Desk API to extract data from Desk. They then parse and store that data in a SQL server. And their use case for this is that they required a number of calculated metrics that are summarized based on specific hours of operations and custom fields. So one example is running a business hours report. Birkenstock USA needed those timestamps on the individual case records for their date arithmetic. And then this screenshot shows the data scheme being stored in their SQL server. So thank you to Birkenstock USA for sharing some of their files and helping me understand how they are using those case endpoints to get what they need. Like Birkenstock has done, I recommend you determine what your team's requirements are, or whether or not developing reports via the API makes sense for your organization. But I did want to at least present it as an option. If it is a good option for you, if you've reviewed the documents and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Reach out to our support team at support@desk.com. Let them know if there's anything that you need help with. But I do want to just back up here. The documentation here is very well organized in regards to the areas of Desk that have endpoints. And then I don't have this noted, but I do believe that Birkenstock is doing periodic updates versus something like a real-time webhook. So they're running their data API, I think it's daily and I think it's overnight. So they're using it for periodic batches, but you could do this for real time as well. Okay, so this is a repeat from the slide earlier. Some people like to take a screenshot of it. I like to use it to kind of jog your memory as we're nearing the end of the webinar. These are the main topics we covered today. If you have any questions, please do let us know in the questions widget. We're going to get there. Also, stay tuned. I'm going to dive into resources on any of the topics covered today, and in addition, just for Desk.com in general, particularly the admin or agent perspective. Please don't hesitate. Check out support.desk.com. That is our support site. Reach out to our support team. Also, try out Trailhead. If you don't know what Trailhead is a self-guided learning journey. It's basically modules that walk you through Salesforce products, features, benefits, configurations, etc. You choose if you're like a business user or an end user, or if you're a developer, or if you're an admin. You choose your level, whether you're beginning, intermediate, or advanced, and then you choose your product or topics. If you go to trailhead.salesforce.com and just search for Desk.com, there are 5 modules. Most of them are related to admin configuration, things like productivity, your support center, macros, things of that nature. We do have one for the agent console, and more are coming. So just know that Trailhead is very actively being developed at Salesforce to help our customers as a free resource for you to learn the products and solutions that we have available and that you may be paying for subscriptions on. We also have our success community. We have our Desk webinars, which if you're here today, hopefully you are aware of our webinar site. And then lastly, just a quick reminder, it's not on the slide, but that API documentation is a great resource following today. So with that, I've talked a lot. I hope that we can get some great questions here. And Brian, you can fire away.
The first question, I think will probably be covered in the document that I sent out, but basically, how do I report on cases with Salesforce.com that were modified by Desk? Where is that data saved in Desk Connect?
Sure. So for that, we would need to know, how is your Desk Connect synchronization set up? For Desk Connect in particular, we have a great office hours. I don't have my webinars and events calendar pulled up, but let me do that to see when the next Desk Connect is. So Desk Connect office hours are on Wednesdays. These times are showing in CST, by the way, guys, since I am in Chicago. So at 12:30 CST, 1:30 Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific, we have Desk Connect office hours. I believe Amrita will be leading it on the 21st here, but that can be a great opportunity for you to ask specific questions about it. If you're syncing data both ways, if you're syncing from Salesforce to Desk and Desk to Salesforce, if you're making changes in Desk, those should sync to Salesforce. Now check to see if at any level, the company, which is the account, the contact, which is the customer, which is the contact, or at the case level, if you have any inclusions or exclusions noted there in field mapping, that could prevent syncing because you intentionally added that. As far as the data being stored, if that sync is going both ways, it would be stored in Salesforce. And then you could use the reporting engine within Salesforce to report on the available metrics. So one of those documents that Brian shared walks through kind of reporting within Salesforce at a high level. I am kind of a product authority for Desk. I have certifications on Salesforce, but I can't give you specifics on generating reports in Salesforce because your data, your custom fields are going to be unique to your own instance of not only Desk, but also of Salesforce.
Great. Next is, can you share a saved report?
That is an excellent question. So saved reports are going to populate. I'll go back over to the Business Insights. Saved reports are going to populate under your login here for favorites. To share, what typically happens is the download button here, and then you'll have that file that you can share whatever your means of sharing are. Here at Salesforce, we use Salesforce and Chatter. On the Desk team, we also use Slack. Maybe you use Google Suite products or Microsoft products, etc. That gives you the flexibility to share it in the avenue or channel that makes the most sense for your organization. So if you do need to share, I recommend downloading here. That is the best workaround to my knowledge, unless, Brian, you have anything additional to add.
I do not. Let's see, other questions here. I think we got them all.
And I know I threw a lot of information at you today. So one of the best takeaways that I recommend, one, you can rewatch the webinar if you really want to listen to my voice again. Two, we do have resources available in our support center. Actually, let me hop over there. I may have it readily available somewhere. If you just go to our kind of business insights hub, and this is another great link. I'll drop this in. I use this a lot when my customers are learning business insights. This for you is just like a curated list of all of the additional articles that you can reference related to kind of each type of report. So if you have questions on macro reports, I'll open this in a new tab, or questions on the segmentation report that we just covered, you can get information about that particular report and some of the views that you need, to look at on screen. Available to you. So if you're very hands-on with that and you need those step-by-step instructions, we do have documentation and screenshots and videos and things of that nature. Within this, we also have that metrics glossary. It's number one on the list because I think by and large, it is something I visit regularly and something that I advocate our customers visit regularly as well. So as a next step, check out the support center resources. I do recommend diving into business insights. Same thing. Diving into business insights, on your own, giving it a go as far as the filters and the different types of reports. Figure out if you're able to analyze the appropriate kinds of case data there. If you're looking to do a little bit more than business insights, that next step is to think about doing those raw case exports, either through the filter or the search. And then lastly, if you are looking, I'll just refresh this page. If you are looking to get even more advanced and do more with the API, that's another route for you as well. With that, if there aren't any additional questions, I do want to thank you again for your interest in desk reporting. We will have this same or similar session on July 25th. So if you or other members of your team, or maybe you have friends or family that are also subscribed to Desk, please let them know about that session. And then as mentioned, we will distribute the recording and copy via email, so keep an eye out for that. And after today's session, there will be a brief survey. This was our first session for reporting, so please let us know your thoughts on today's content. I would love to continue improving and building upon this so that customers like yourselves can be successful with Desk.com, particularly the reporting capabilities. And so I want to say thank you to everyone. I appreciate your time and questions. And I will stay on the line briefly here if there's anything else. But other than that, I'm wrapping it up.